I move to a new country every single month, and here are the top things that I wish I knew before spending a month in Barcelona. First thing is I wouldn't necessarily pick August as the good travel month, even though that's right in the heart of travel season. For Barcelona locals, they actually take the month of August off, many of them do at least, and go somewhere else, which is great for them. But that means if you go in August, you're not going to have all of the restaurants open, but you will still have just as many tourists coming in. So not the best month unless you like really, really warm days and not a ton of locals, so be aware of that. Second thing is a lot of people and articles online talk about Barcelona being an unsafe city, a place that you got to watch out for pickpocketing, and there's just a lot of like fear-based content out there, I think, on Barcelona. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't take precautions. You absolutely should. But in my experience, I didn't feel any less safe in Barcelona than anywhere else in Europe. So I felt totally safe the entire time. Luckily, never got pickpocketed. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen to you. Just be diligent and you should be just fine. Next thing is in terms of where you would most likely be getting pickpocketed from, would probably be on Las Ramblas, which is that main tourist strip. There's a lot of shopping. It's a unique street, kind of historic, so you probably are going to visit it, but that is where I guess most pickpocketers hang out, there and in a part of town called El Raval. I'm so bad with Spanish pronunciation, so please forgive me ahead of time. But even if you do visit Las Ramblas, just recognize that most things there are a tourist trap. It's not where you're going to find the locals, so if you are seeking that local culture, get the heck off that street. Next thing is to just be mindful that there's been a big influx of expats moving into Barcelona, which has raised housing prices for locals, so there is a go-home tourist movement. So while that doesn't mean that you won't be welcomed or that you shouldn't go, you absolutely should go, but just be mindful of the pain points that locals are dealing with. Make sure not to be loud and obnoxious late at night. Don't take advantage of tourists. And of course, try to support actual local businesses rather than those tourist traps on streets like Las Ramblas and the other touristy places in town. Next thing to know has to do with a couple of the specific neighborhoods that you will likely visit. One is the Gothic Quarter and one is El Born. Both of these are beautiful places that you will absolutely go. Some main attractions are in those areas, but do note this is the older, more historic part of town. You do have pretty tall buildings all made of stone, which means cell reception isn't great there. Wouldn't hurt to download Google Maps in that area before you go. Speaking of cell service, I've been using a company called Aerolo, which offers something called an eSIM, and I've been using them for about a year now, and they've been wonderful. And what an eSIM does is it allows you before your trip to just download an app. There's no physical SIM card. You download an app, you pay between $4 and $30 depending how much data you want, and when you land in Barcelona, you will have regular service for your phone. You won't be able to make calls and texts outside of iMessage, but all the navigation and just normal internet searches you'll be able to do because you have cell data. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out and see if it makes sense for you on your trip. Now, by the end of this video, I'll kind of give you a breakdown on which part of town you should base yourself in depending on what you're looking for in your trip. And I'll also give some specific recommendations on some of my favorite restaurants, bars, and things that I really enjoy that I think are worth checking out when you're there. But first, I want to give you some practical tips on tourist destination, things that you will likely already be doing. I assume if you are going, you're going to try to go to El Sagrado because it is gorgeous. You're going to try to go to some of the museums. Know a couple things. Book those as far out in advance as possible. Even for Park Güell, that does require tickets and the reservations do fill up pretty quick during the high season. I actually walked all the way up there thinking I was going to be able to just walk right in. Turns out I walked like an hour and a half for absolutely nothing. I got up there were no more tickets. I tried asking anybody, can I just sneak in? Is there anything that I could do? It's only open for another hour. Unfortunately, the answer was no. So make sure that you book those in advance. And for museums, if you're looking to save some money, note that the first Sunday of each month, most museums in Barcelona are actually free. So if you're trying to save some cash, maybe book your travel around the first Sunday of a month to save some money there. And also note that on Sundays, like most places in Europe, a lot of things are closed down just because it's a day of rest, relaxation, time to spend with family and friends. So just don't expect to have access to everything on a Sunday. And I want to tell you about all the neighborhoods, but I want to give you those specific recommendations on food places first. So if you're looking for that really fancy night and you got some cash to spend, and I mean cash, go to Aliyah. It is a place that has a Michelin star, it's up in a hotel, and it was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. All local cuisine, fantastic chef, couldn't recommend them enough, but again, be ready to pay. If you're somebody who enjoys bar scenes and you want to experience what is currently ranked the #1 bar in the entire world, it's a place called Paradiso, and it's in Elborn, which is a great little area. It's kind of a speakeasy feel. The outside looks like a sandwich shop, but make no mistake, the actual bar is behind it. There will be a long line. They open up typically around like 3 or 4. I think they actually put this like big sign with the QR system on it. You can go and you scan that QR code and it puts you on a wait list. There are no reservations, so you are going to physically have to get down there, scan that QR code, and wait your turn, but it is well worth it. Pretty cool place, and why wouldn't you go to the #1 bar in the world if you were there, right? I'm not a very big drinker, but hey, when in Rome or when in Barcelona. Now, if the line for Paradiso is pretty long and you're looking to kill some time, I would highly recommend a place called, I think it's pronounced Caju. It is directly across from Paradiso, and it opened when we were there. It's this little gelato shop opened up by a guy named Pablo who moved over from Argentina, and let me tell you, this guy knows something about gelato. It is fantastic, some of the best gelato I've ever had in my entire life, and he is just one of the nicest guys out there, super kind and friendly. He will talk your ear off, and you should share your stories with him. He's got a wonderful life story and even better ice cream or gelatos. Pablo, if you're watching this, thank you for your services. Your gelato is top tier. Speaking of sweet treats, if you're more of a cheesecake kind of person, there's a place called, I think, Dawn Cake, and it's not too far from there, it's not too far from there, and they have some of the best cheesecake, some of the most popular cheesecake in Barcelona. Now, recognize that this is another place that fills up. You'll oftentimes see a line that's 15-20 minutes long, and they do sell out of their cheesecake because it is the most popular item. Typically by around 2 or 3 p.m. is when I noticed that they were gone, so make sure to go and try that and get there early. And if that isn't enough sweets for you, I'd highly recommend trying what I think is called a crema catalana. It's basically a creme brulee, but with a Spanish twist. It's excellent. I don't have a specific place to go and try that. Just get that anywhere it's on the menu. It's bound to be great. I'm going to need to look at my computer screen for the pronunciation of this one. It's called Cerveza Vasa de Oro. I don't know. It's a tapas bar. It's in Barcelona. I'll link it down in the description along with all of these. And it is just one of the nicest little tapas bars that I've ever been to. I hung out there a ton. Everything on the menu, spectacular. If you've got a taste for ramen or sushi, there's a place not too far from that tapas bar called Katsu. It is spectacular. Again, I know I'm saying all these places are spectacular, but I'm only sharing the best. I eat out like 3 meals a day, and that's actually owned by another person from Argentina. Wonderful little place. Highly recommend down there in Barcelona. If you're a health nut and you're looking for a really clean meal, there's actually a yoga studio called Frisant that mostly does food. I don't know when they have yoga classes. I know they do at some point, but I would just go there for food. Some really quality stuff there. And if you're saying, nah, I don't eat healthy, I just want baked goods, I feel you. There's a place called Origo, which some of the best pastries I had in Barcelona. Pretty good coffee too. So those are all the restaurants that I recommend. Again, link in the description for all of those. Now, let's talk about where you should actually base yourself in a trip for Barcelona. 2 really important things to note just so you have some context. First, note that the public transportation is really strong in Barcelona. They have a metro system, and like most metro systems, there's multiple types of tickets that you can buy. Look into that depending on how long your trip is, but for me, the casual tea ticket made the most sense. And also note that Barcelona has a big late night culture, so note that certain areas are going to be more lively and a little crazy compared to others. So let's jump into the actual neighborhoods themselves. I stayed in a place called Barceloneta, which is kind of down near the beach. Now, I had picked that because I was like, oh, this is the best of all worlds. I'm close to the water. I should have easy access to everything else. This looks great, right? Yes and no. Barceloneta is great for some people. If you're looking for the party scene and you want to spend a lot of time on the beach, you're going to love it. It's going to be great for you. I didn't absolutely love it for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not your big party guy. I'm just over that phase. So it was a pretty loud neighborhood. And while yes, it was great being close to the beach, that beach in particular has just a lot of tourists, and a lot of the top clubs and bars are all along that beach. So it wasn't quite the beach vibe that I was looking for. One of the other things that Barcelona does not have is it does not have a ton of restaurants. And the few that they do have are catered towards the tourists. So it is a bit more challenging finding a good restaurant there. Now, the other area of town that you will likely be in is the Gothic Quarter, or, El Raval, El Born. Those are all right next to each other. It's kind of like where the old stuff is. And it's beautiful. It's stunning. Just note that in those, there are really tight alleyways. It's easy to get lost. While yes, there are a lot of great tourist attractions, it's probably not going to be the best in terms of accommodation, but you will want to have easy access to those. So we'll come back to those. The next few places are El Sagrada, up near El Sagrada Familia, right? You're definitely going to want to go into that. In my experience, I wouldn't recommend staying up there. While you'll definitely make a trip up, it's just too far from the rest of Barcelona to really enjoy, especially as a tourist. So I wouldn't do that. And that really leaves you with two main places that make sense for most tourists. And it's actually where I will probably wanting to base myself in my next Barcelona trip. And those are the Eixample neighborhood and the Gracia. What's great about those is they are further north, so you don't get as much tourist traffic. Don't get me wrong, there will still be some, but some of the better restaurants are up there. You're going to get a better feel for local culture up there, and you're also still a really easy walk down to El Born, the old part of town where some of those top museums are. And in my experience, it's going to be what a lot of US travelers are looking for. So Sagrada, probably too far from the things that you're going to want to have access to actually base yourselves up there. El Raval, just a little bit too sketchy. Probably not the place you want to be, at least for your first time in Barcelona. Barceloneta, great if you want access to the beach and parties, but expect parties, expect loud, and expect some grit. It's fun, but might not be the place for everybody. The Gothic Quarter and El Born, wonderful if you want to be in the heart of things, but older type homes, tighter streets, not going to be as accessible. And that's why Eixample and Gracia is going to be where I stay next time and where I would recommend for most tourists. But if you have any questions, always leave those in the comment section down below as well. And a fun bonus tip is my wife actually says that the best yoga studio she's ever found anywhere in the world is in Barcelona. I've got no idea what it's called, but I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out if that's important to you. But if you want to see what I loved about Barcelona and 5 things that I hated about Barcelona, you can check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.